All right, guys, I am going to introduce my friend who I have been watching for a good while here on, on Facebook, Dawn Rose. Dawn Rose is a passionate bridal stylist with 15 years of experience who has turned her love of hairdressing into a full-time high-performance coaching business for hairstylists and makeup artists who want to build their business in the bridal industry. She has developed the Bridal Business School live stream TV, runs her own podcast, and offers online courses and private coaching, which I've had plenty of, not from you, but from plenty of other coaches, and we all need coaching. Dawn teaches you how to turn your passion for hairstyling and or makeup artistry into a profitable and successful bridal business using branding, automation, social media, and digital marketing, all necessary skills for today. Wouldn't you say, Dawn?
Definitely, 100%. Hello, everyone.
So why don't you tell us what got you into this field and a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of came a little bit late to the party in a way. I've actually had the main part of my career, the beginning part of my career was actually in corporate. So I think perhaps the business side of me has come from having so many years in corporate. And I actually trained in around 2004, 2005, and I did beauty. So I did beauty therapy, massage. So I'm a qualified beauty therapist and I did nails. And a part of that was wedding, special occasion, and photography makeup. So that was part of my beauty diploma. And I moved to Australia. Some of you might tell that I've got an English accent. I'm from the UK, but I moved here to Australia in around 2005 with my then boyfriend, now husband. And I set myself up in my own business, and I was still doing corporate full time actually. And I was working then building up my own beauty business from a salon. And it was funny because I found from being that sort of side of things and having my own I rented a room inside of a hairdressing studio. I realized that a lot of the hairstylists, they didn't like to do updos. And so I did makeup. We did a lot of debutantes and proms and that kind of things. And the hairdresser didn't like to do updos. So she started to teach me how to do updos. So I kind of got into doing hair and makeup then at that point. So fast forward a few years, my husband and I, we had my daughter Holly, and we were living in we'd moved states, and I started my business again. And I answered an ad, funnily enough. I answered an ad, and the ad said, do you do can you do hair and makeup? Do you travel? Do you have a car, phone, etc.? Because we're looking for hair and makeup artists to do weddings. And I thought, well, this is perfect because I've got my little one at home with me all week when my husband's working. I can go and do weddings at the weekend. And I started working for like an agency, basically. And that's how I started doing really weddings. And that sort of started from around 2008, I would say. And basically it's kind of continued. But from working with this agency, there was a few things that happened. Number one, they kind of went going bust and owing me money. And I could have it was actually a real low point in my career because I was owed money, number one, but also they were booking me every week. Like I had so many weddings booked in. And I think the worst point, sort of that lowest point of my career, was then having to call those brides and say, I'm really sorry, but she's kind of taken your money and I'm not contracted to work for you anymore. And it was just, and if you want to work, if you want me, you kind of, you're going to have to pay me basically direct, because she had taken the bride's money and then obviously wasn't paying her artists. So I could have curled up in the fetal position and gone, oh my God. But instead, I don't know, it flipped a switch on in my brain that said, hang on a minute. if she can do this, if she can get, I was getting so many, text messages every day going, do you want a wedding? Do you want a wedding? Do you want a wedding? I thought, where's she getting all these brides from? And so I kind of made it my mission to think, well, what's her website look like? How is she attracting these brides? Where's she advertising? And so that kind of, I think that corporate switch and that kind of business switch turned on in me and went, if she can do this, I can run my own business. And pretty much from that point on, that's exactly what I did. And I built my business up in Queensland, and then my husband and I, we moved back to Victoria, where I am now, and I started again. So I restarted my business again and then built up a really good business here. And yeah, so that's kind of my story.
That is really, it makes a lot of sense with the business background. I know that has been the well, what do you call it? You have a saying called the too hard basket. Why don't you explain a little bit about that for people who might be like, wow, she can do it, she has corporate background, but I can never do it.
Yeah, so I think what happens is that we're so passionate about what we do. We're so passionate about learning new techniques and, doing lots of programs to enhance our skills. And I think that is, it's 100% what we have to do. We have to keep up with the trends and stuff. But I think that we sometimes then forget about that we have to work on our business as well as in our business. And I think that sometimes we look at things and think it's so hard. And I've got kind of, I can tell you, so I've got these, what I call the 3 C's. Okay. So I feel like most stylists will struggle with 3 things. They're going to struggle with competition because they worry that, they're going to be beaten on price somewhere. And it generally comes down to the fact that there's, so many makeup. And we talked last week when we were saying how like this industry is inundated with stylists and makeup artists. And funnily enough now as well, you've got makeup artists. You don't have to be a hairdresser to be a hairstylist, so you can be a makeup artist, learn to do upskilling, and now suddenly we've got even more competition, which is quite predominant now. So competition is probably one thing that we worry about. My other C, I've written them down. My other C is client conversion. So client conversion. So basically turning that browsing bride into that booking bride. So that can be another thing that we struggle with, but perhaps we get lots and lots of inquiries, but we're really struggling then to convert them into an actual paying booking. And then the last C that we worry about is client attraction. So, getting the brides in the first place. Where are all these brides? How do these people manage to get all these brides? Like, where are they getting them from? So I think I like to look at them in those 3 areas, because it then comes basically down into a path. It's a path that I take my students on when I'm teaching them throughout my program. And even when I'm doing my live streams, I like to kind of dive a bit deeper into each of those areas and say, okay, like I said, you put it in the too hard basket because you think things are too hard, but actually if we break them down simply, we can actually move forward a lot easier. And I think hair and makeup artists, a lot of people don't have the background I have. They don't have the business background. And so we kind of hope, we start a business and we hope that we've opened our business and we just tell everyone that we're now available and we hope that people are going to book us. But actually you kind of need to take a little bit of a step back and say, well, okay, who do I actually want as my client? That's the number one thing. Who do I actually want to attract? Because if you don't know who it is, how are you going to know where they are and how you can find them?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And a lot of stylists get stuck in taking whoever comes along, or when you operate in any level of fear or without a plan, and that is the business brain, is to have a plan.
Yes.
It's just a different way of thinking. It's not anything too hard. It's just someone needs to point out, let's reverse engineer these steps. And with a coach, you say, all right, we're going to do these steps first, then these steps. And the shift it's amazing for the person learning and being coached, because all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can really do this.
Yeah. And I think that, like, you're exactly right. You just have to I think because we're creative people, I feel like we see the bigger picture. We have that vision for our clients. So we see the big picture, and we know that we can get them there. We know this. The problem we've got is that most of us don't know how to show a bride or any kind of hair client, but we don't know how to show them that we're the ones for them. And like I said, if you look at your business, as to knowing exactly who your client is and who you're going to market to, like you said, with a plan, once you have that plan in place, things kind of start to fall. And I say that really 80 to 90% of your business is to do with kind of creating a brand around what you do. And I don't really mean that you need to be like the next Nike or Adidas or anything like that. But if you think about the top brands that we all know and love, you get a feeling from them. You know exactly what it is that they do and who their target market is. So it should be the same for you. What is it that you do? Okay, so you're a hairdresser. That's fantastic. But who's your ideal client? Are they old? Are they young? Are they, proms and debutantes, or are they brides? And then, okay, well, if you're liking brides, well, do you do real glamour brides? Do you do soft and natural brides? Do you do beachy brides? You've got to really look into the who of your business, because if you can really find out who you are as an artist and the benefits and the strengths that you bring to the table, then you can really attract some amazing clients to your business. And these are the clients that you're going to nail their look every single time, and they're going to shout from the rooftops, "This is my stylist, isn't she freaking amazing? She's the most amazing person in the world, and here's her number." That's how then we get the referrals that come in.
So I think the idea is, now you have your brides broken down into 6 types. And honestly, when I first heard this from you, I was like, well, I do everybody, and it really does make sense for someone certainly starting out, or someone who lives near the beach, or someone who lives in a city that has a high-end glamour, or like for me in Connecticut, the town and country bride,
right?
That was the bride that I got a lot of. So the classic, the elegant, I want the ones with money.
Yeah.
So tell us the 6 that you have, so that the people can really get an idea of, gee, it might be great to start with just one, and sure, I'll then hang out on Gretchen's Updo page and learn more styles, right?
And that is exactly it. So you start with one, and this is what I say. If you're new to the industry, so there's kind of 2 categories. If you're new to the industry and you're just looking at getting into it, I've actually got a quiz that everyone can take if they want to, and it's totally free. And you can go, I'll give you the link for that, Gretchen. But they can go in and they can take the quiz, and then they'll come out with the type of bride that they attract. And it's based on, I designed the quiz based on the type of hair and makeup that they like to do, and the types of brides that they like to cater to, but then also thinking about, if you've been in the industry maybe for a while, the types of brides that you do attract, or the best ones, the best of the bunch. Think about the best of the bunch. So I always say that you're either new to the industry and you've not kind of got started yet. You've maybe done a couple of brides, less than 10, let's say. So this is a really good way to start. It's just to start the business. Or if you are really struggling with the fact that you're attracting loads of brides perhaps to your website and social media, but you're not actually converting them into a booking, there's a disconnection somewhere. So again, I say, right, take the quiz, go through the quiz, find out who it is that you should be attracting, because for some reason you're attracting, maybe so many different brides and no one's quite sure what it is that you do. So there's some kind of disconnection there. So I said there's 6 personalities of brides. You're asking me something now. So you've got the natural bride. So the natural bride tends to be that kind of no makeup look, very kind of soft pinned hair, nothing probably too elaborate and too fancy, but she can maybe be a little bit of the weary bride. She's the bride that can perhaps keep you on your toes a little bit, because she's that bride who doesn't normally do her hair up very much, and she doesn't have loads of makeup on her face, so she's a little bit resistant. Then you've got the quirky bride. So the quirky bride is that fun loving victory rolls, you know, beehive. She has something really fun. She might be, you know, that bright red lipstick. She may even not wear a traditional wedding gown. So the quirky bride is someone a little bit more fun. If that's what you are, then certainly I think if you're quite quirky as a person, you tend to attract the quirky bride. You've got the classic bride, like you said, the town and country bride, the bride who perhaps is living with her parents before she even moves out, the bride who probably gets married in a probably in a big ceremony, probably a church ceremony. The traditional stroke classic brides are those brides who have that the really timeless styles. So they might have anything that is maybe a little bit more sleek. They may have something that is including, you know, a veil, like a big kind of cathedral type veil. It's very, I find for me, the classic brides here in Australia tend to be my European brides. So my Italians, my Greeks, you know, because it's all family orientated with the classic bride. Then you have the glam. Okay, so the glam bride. So the glam bride is the bride who basically wants to be the center of attention. So she will have, you know, something big in her hair. She may even wear the crown. You know, she will be the bride who, you know, will have really heavy eye makeup. So she's probably one who wears makeup all the time. You know, she probably does her hair all the time. She might be one who, you know, has her hair and nails is her thing. So the glamour bride is the bride who's going to be that wow factor. And I don't know that there's a lot of them out there. And again, it just depends on where you are based, I think. And she's probably going to be spending a bit of money, the glam bride, I would say. Although sometimes she can have what do they say? You've got the
champagne taste on a beer wallet.
That's the one. That is the one. Yeah, she's got the champagne taste. So she's a tricky bride to have. And then the other two are the boho. So I said the boho bride is the bride who will have, you know, sort of tousled curls. She's very likely to have flower crown in her hair. She will probably be the bride that may get married on the beach, maybe an outdoorsy kind of wedding. But she's kind of she's very bronzed, you know. She's kind of like she'll be very similar to the natural bride, I would say, but she would just be more about the flowers. It would be more about having flowers intertwined in her hair and that kind of thing. And then lastly, you've got the modern bride, and the modern bride is the bride of, I think, that's going to be coming up in the next, you know, 5 years or so. You're going to get a lot of modern brides, and it's the brides that basically they'll flick through a magazine and they'll go, I want that look. And it will be okay. And I think as well that they won't be too money conscious. And they'll want that whole Kim Kardashian look. You know, they've grown up with that Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian kind of feel. And then, yeah, they're going to be looking through the magazines and that's what they want. So I always say to try to find which is your niche, because the way I just described them, they're very different types of brides, and you aren't going to find all of those brides in your area. It's just not, you know, it's not possible. And you can't, the other thing I say as well is that if you try to attract everyone, you're going to end up attracting no one, because you end up with a really messy kind of website that's got, you know, so many different types of brides on it. And then your Instagram looks a bit kind of crazy. And people will go onto your I always like to use Instagram as a gallery. It's like the new gallery. So you still have a few photos on your website, but people's attention spans are so short these days, it's easier for them to scroll. So if you use your Instagram as a gallery, but then it's got, you know, a little bit of the quirky bride, and it's got a little bit of, you know, the glamour bride, and then some of it's boho, a bride who wants a specific look is going to look and go, well, it's nice. They do a good job, but I'm not really sure if they're for me. Whereas if they came across a page and it was literally just full of boho brides, they're going to go, this is her, this is it, that's it, done. I don't even need to look anymore. So I think we kind of need to look at it that way.
I agree. I like that explanation, because it the competition is such that will make someone stop and go right to you. And it might not be what people want to hear, you know, as stylists, but there will be other people in the wedding party that won't be that bride, and you might have a chance to do another look on someone else. But
Yes.
in the marketing perspective, and especially with the competition, that is really a key point.
Yeah, you've got to find something that's going to make you stand out. And if you think about this, a bride, let's say a bride was, let's say you were a bride, Gretchen, and you were looking for a hairstylist, and you know that within, you know, a 5-mile radius of you, there's at least, you know, half a dozen hairstylists. They all have pretty websites. They all have Facebook pages, you know, they're all listed on, you know, Yahoo or whatever. And they all look like they can do what it is that you want them to do. So, okay, I'm looking around and I've got a choice, right? So I'm looking, all these people, they all look pretty much the same. So what's it going to come down to? What is going to be the one thing that's going to turn your customer then into a booking? Price.
Right.
Right? It's going to come down to price, because if everyone does exactly the same thing and we all look the same and we've all got these pretty websites and we all just, you know, we're all a bit, then it's going to come down to price. And who are they going to go with? They're going to go with the cheapest. So you need to give brides a reason to book you. You need to give brides a reason. That's why I say about creating that brand, that feeling, because if you can stand out amongst the crowd and give your brides that reason to book with you, then you're going to find it's going to be the most, brides are going to come, you know, brides are going to come because you're going to be known for something.
I think that's a really good point, and it kind of goes back to that disconnect that you talked about. So if you're everything for everyone and you're not booking particular brides, then you start lowering your prices to get them, and that's just losing. That's just a really deep dive to nowhere. You might face that disconnect for a while as you shift over, you know, really I love to decorate a new room or a house. We flip houses too. But so the idea of rebranding, right? You put out a post a couple weeks ago about, I'm going to change my colors and I want to think about my fonts, and it's exciting. So to really have that plan to rebrand, to be okay with a disconnect for a while, or maybe not a lot of brides, but in the long run, on the other side, you're going to have something specific. So why don't you talk about marketing once they kind of maybe have their branding figured out?
Yeah, so there's probably another step in between that, so having your brand, that forms about, I think that is like 80% of your business. If you work and concentrate on really finding that one thing that makes you stand out, and you know, creating that brand feeling, that brand message and targeting, then your play, everything else falls into place. So the second thing you can probably do then is look at, and this is where people think this is getting a little bit too hard and a bit too tricky, but then you need to have the structure in your business so that when you do market yourself, you've got some backup. So I talk about then using some kind of automation in your business. Now, I'm all for being face-to-face with your clients. I'm all for talking to them. If you can get them on the phone, that's fantastic. We know that getting people on the phone these days is really hard. You know, they want to just kind of they want everything done there and then, and email or direct message, right? So it's kind of hard getting brides on the phone, but you want to be able to automate your business a little bit. And you want to be able to set your website up so that it can, number one, attract brides, but number two, repel the brides that you don't want to work with, because we don't want brides who are going to be haggling our prices and asking us to lower them. So I always tell my clients, put your prices on your website, because if you do that, they're going to look and go, yes or no, can I afford it? Or even if it's a starting from or a range or something, because they'll look at that and they'll go, all right, yeah, can't afford her. She's way out of my price range. And I think it gives them that bit more of a realistic look into what they actually want from their wedding, because if they can't afford you, they've got, like you said, the champagne thoughts. So if you can then use your website to attract brides as well that are just browsing. And I say to do that by getting them onto an email list. And this is where most stylists, they probably go a bit, I don't really know what you're talking about, Dawn. So I talk about having an email list of potential brides. So you attract brides to your website. Now, some brides are going to be ready to book. Yeah, we're going to have kind of like a bride A and a bride B. Bride A, they're going to come to your website. They're going to go, wow, she looks amazing. Let's request a quote. Right, that's our bride A. They're our A-listers. They're ready to go. They've perhaps been following us on social media for a while. They really like us and they're great. So we get them onto our email list easily because they've submitted perhaps a form for a quote. And so we treat those brides as, you know, kind of celebrities because we want to book them, right? Because they're ready and winning. What we forget about is the brides that perhaps come onto our website, but they're not ready for a quote yet. They're still browsing. They're still having a look. They're still looking for, they're still looking for the right stylist, which is fine. We want to make sure that we're only attracting the right brides, and they need to make sure that they're attracting the right stylist. But what we want to do is we still want to have an opportunity to connect with those brides, and that's the key. So I talk about on your website offering something to get them onto your email list. So offering them an exchange of information, a free download or something to get them onto your email list, and then automating using that email list to be able to kind of communicate with that bride, so that while she still is having a bit of a think and she's not quite ready to book yet, you're in her mind because you're emailing her every week or so and saying, oh, hey, you know, it's us again. And, you know, did you know about, you know, these are the top 3 things we think you should bring to your trial, or if you've been thinking about what to do with your hair, changing your color, here are my tips on, you know, when you should be getting your hair colored and when you should be trying it. So it's not about get them on your email list and sell, book me. It's about get them on your email list and let them know a little bit about you, because when they're ready, who are they going to think of? You, because you're the one who's in their forefront of mind. So if you can get the branding down so you know who you're talking to, and then you can obviously, once you know who you're talking to, you can create these amazing emails that are going out because you're directly talking to a specific type of bride, and you know the types of hair that they're going to be looking for with you, and the type of perhaps makeup and what they need to do with their hair and their skin. You can direct these messages, and then you know that when you look at social media and marketing and getting the word out there, you've got everything in place to back it up.
Yes, it's really tell people a little bit about a warm audience and a cold audience. Tell them the difference.
Yeah, sure. So we're with social media specifically, you hear it a lot. So they talk about kind of like a cold audience, a warm audience, and like a hot audience. So generally speaking, let's talk about a cold audience. So a cold audience is basically people that have never, ever come across you before, never come across any of your work. They may have just stumbled onto your Facebook or Instagram page. So they are a completely cold audience. And in fact, they may even be people that haven't even interacted with you before. And when you look at doing, for example, Facebook ads, you might want to target people that are basically, you're looking for women, you know, in a certain age group that are engaged, right? And the great thing about Facebook ads is that you can do that specifically. You can target women that are engaged in your area. So chances are they've never met you before. So that's what they call a cold audience. You then have sort of like a warm audience, and warm audience are perhaps people that have interacted with you. So maybe they've been following you for a little while. They might make a few comments on your pages, you know, on your posts. They may have even shared a post. They may have tagged a friend in. So they may have even requested a quote from you. So they may have hit your website, they've checked you out, they've requested a quote. So they're a warm audience. So they're an audience that said, hey, I'm a bride. I'm, you know, ready to get a quote from me because my wedding is probably within, I don't know, 12 to 18 months. And I'm actively looking, I'm actively searching for a hairstylist for my wedding. So that would be a warm bride. Now, a hot bride, I call this a hot bride. A hot audience would be somebody who's already spent time with you. So somebody who's perhaps already in your salon, already a customer of yours, they're already spending money with you, or they're, even if you don't own the salon, perhaps they're one of your clients though that you see, for their haircuts and color. So that would be a hot audience. To turn those then from already being your customer to then being their hairstylist on their wedding day, you're in a really high chance of converting, because they already know you, they already trust you with their hair. So for them to then say, can I book you for my wedding, it's probably an easier step for them than anything else. But yeah, there's kind of those three different types of audience, and you have to be aware of those with social media, because again, your messaging to your cold audience who's never met you before is going to be completely different to messaging your existing clients and saying, did you know that I do updos for weddings and special occasions? So for your next occasion, you want to book me. Whereas the cold audience who have never heard from you before, it's a bit like, oh, hey, my name is such and such, and I help natural brides look amazing on their wedding day. And, this is how I help them. I've got, natural products. I use, vegan products or whatever it is. So you it's a completely different message. So you have to have that in mind when you're sort of marketing your business. But again, you got to have that foundation, right? You got to have that. You got to know the client straight away. Who are you targeting? And so that then you know what kind of messages to relay.
Let's discuss the different types of stylists that might be listening. There's in salon stylists, where the salon, back in the day when I was doing a lot of weddings, I was teaching salons how to have a bridal corner and how to market and how to network and how to be the salon in town for brides. So some salons have a big bridal traffic. Then there's the suite stylists who, have to advertise for themselves. And then there's the freelance. And then you brought up that other part where you're working for a company, a big bridal company. So I've seen those.
So like an agency or something.
Yeah, an agency. So what do you have to say to each of them? Is it different? Is it the same?
Look, it is a bit different. I think a lot of hair salons, don't put it, I find it might be different in the States, but I think a lot of hair salons don't put a lot of emphasis into doing bridal work in-house. And the reason why is because it ties up their artists. And if you think about it, an updo can take 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the length of hair and thickness, etc. And I think sometimes to salon owners, they feel like that if they're going to tie up their artists for that amount of time, then they can't take in their walk-ins or their regular guests. But I think that some salon owners are really missing a beat, because the environment that they could give to those brides and that exclusivity perhaps of maybe even not opening their salon until midday, and having that morning bridal party in, and they say, we're not taking any bookings this morning because we're giving this amazing experience to our bridal clients. I think there's a little bit of work to do. Well, I guess for myself, it's a bit of work to do to try and say to salon owners, hey, I think you're missing something here. I think you could potentially make a really good profit. I mean, let's face it, they want the profit and that's what it is. But I think you can make a really good profit by, opening your salon to brides, because I think what they tend to do is that if they do have brides come in, they sort of just come in, they sit in someone's chair, somebody does their updo, maybe they might sit in the makeup chair as well, and then off they go. But I don't know, I feel like they're missing a beat. I really do.
Yeah, that's exactly what, there are a number of salons that do that. They have a bridal department or a bridal menu or a bridal team. That was what I used to help salons to create. So on the bridal team, someone could just be available for curls or blowouts. and someone, you know, I would come in and I would assess who I know who could do who. So I would do the bride and I'm like, all right, you go to Mary, you go, you know, and when I do on location, I had a sheet and people would say what kind of hairstyle they had. But in the salon, it doesn't, you don't have to be an updo person. You know, there's blowouts that need to be done.
That's right.
And makeup that needs to be done. And it can be marketed and put in a corner of the salon. And it can be a really great experience. And that's, you know, I was writing an article today and you said the word experience. And I was just writing about that because there's so much do-it-yourself now online. And honestly, some of these boho looks like a 12-year-old could do, they're not hard. And I'm hearing some brides saying, oh, well, my friend's going to do everybody, or why should I pay? That's an easy style. And we're almost like bohoing ourselves out of a career. Where's the experience? And if it's not just the hairstyle, but the experience of the communication, of the, you can go online and find articles. You don't have to write an article. You can share articles. There's tons of wedding articles, and there's tons that are just beauty and hair related. Go on the Knot, go on Wedding Wire, go on any of these. And every day you could be forwarding an article to your Facebook page that keeps your brides in the loop of what's going on. And especially the Knot is regional. So I just bought a Knot magazine off the shelf, and it's all about New England and Boston and Rhode Island weddings. And so when I was really doing weddings a lot, I went into the wedding industry. And so that's another thing that brides could think about is like, get into the wedding industry, call some wedding planners. That's what I started to do, was network with the wedding planners or network on a vendor's list for a particular resort, and get out there and see what's available. Because if you're the boho bride and there's this amazing boho wedding venue, well, now you have a connection and a talking point, and that's just another way to set yourself apart and create that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing. Like I said, because we do have so many kind of people that are self-taught, which I said to you last week, I don't want to take away anything from those people that are self-taught, because there are some amazing stylists out there who are making a living out of this, basically. But when you're talking about a bride then saying, oh, my friend's going to do my hair, they're doing it because they're doing it as a price cutting exercise. So kind of, to me, that says to me that she doesn't really value her hair and makeup. You know, if somebody's if it's like, I'm just getting a friend to do it, then to me that hair and makeup is not her priority. And so I kind of think to myself, well, you know what, then she's not really my ideal client, because I want clients who want to be sat in my chair. But also saying what you were saying about sharing information, I always say that we should be creating our own content, but we should, absolutely be sharing other people's content. Where we worry about posting, right? We worry about, what do I post on my Facebook page today? And, I don't know what to do. But you've just given the prime example of what you can do. Guys, go and check it out. Go check out the blogs and vlogs, the beauty blogs, the wedding blogs, the hair blogs. There are so many out there. Find, scour those things for your clients and then share those articles, and then mix that in with your own content. Even take that article and say, I read this article. Here are my top 5 things. So here are the top 5 things I got out of this. What do you think? And then, summarize that article. So then if they don't want to read it, they don't have to. They could just read your notes from it. But if you want to connect on social media, which is what we all want to do, we want to get connections with people, we want to grow our audience, you need to be creating and curating content. It's, you curate meaning you can share it, and creating means you need to create some of your own original stuff as well. But also going back to what you said about the different individuals, I think suite owners, because they're because they're obviously attracting their own. So I guess when you say suite owner, you mean somebody who who basically has their own place. Is that what you mean by a suite owner?
like it's this little
A
room and it's
studio.
just them.
Yeah, like a studio or something. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is all,
Yeah.
even those who work from home, basically, which is what I do. I've got my own hairdressing salon, like at home. So it's a room in my house. So yeah, so I think that they do a pretty good job of attracting local clients. I definitely think, again, they need to work on using the people that they already know to create connections, definitely. Freelancers tend to be the ones who, again, perhaps they might have they might be a freelancer, in other words, they travel, but they also might have a place at home. The ones who work for agencies, well, it's down to the agency. It's really down to how much agency, the work, how much work's coming in from the agency. But again, you got to be careful with agencies, and that's not that's coming from me saying you got to be careful with agencies. But my opinion is with agencies is that I'm hesitant to put all my eggs in one basket when it comes to building my business and building my reputation. And some agencies will only let you work exclusively for them. And to me, it's a little bit of a red flag, because I really want to build my own reputation alongside it, because I do feel like if the work dried up with the agency, then I've got nothing to fall back on. So anyone looking to do agency work, I think it's brilliant, because I think that it can, especially anyone that's new and struggling perhaps to build their own business right now, but they need some income and they want to do it with what they love, then I definitely think agency work is great, because they can provide you with some stability. But I always think still keep trying to build that business on the side for yourself as well, and think about, your own income.
I can share a little bit about how I transitioned, from a in salon to full-time freelance. And I approached I'd had my own salon and closed it, and needed to work closer to home. My kids were young, and it was just a time for me to do that. So right off the bat, I mean, it was kind of golden opportunity for him, because an entire salon, my entire staff, we all went in and doubled his foot space. So I said to him, I book brides a year or two out in advance, and they are going to take precedence for me on Saturdays and Fridays, and even can I open the salon on a Sunday if I need to. And he was accommodating to that. And then I eventually left that salon and went to a more high-end salon. And that, I think, gave me the confidence to say, oh, wow, my updos now are like $350. And this is in 2000. Of course, it's Connecticut. But the idea is there's those places everywhere. There's those prices everywhere. So that gave me the confidence to say, oh, I could really go off on my own. And this is before social media, but I did have a website. And so it doesn't have to be something overnight. I love that idea of get some experience, maybe with an agency, get some confidence. There's so many options for the hairdressers. And again, that word disconnect. If something's not working, I always say there's no right or wrong. Mm-hmm. If there's a disconnect, let's look at it again. Let's not blame ourselves. Let's not blame others, the industry, the salons. Let's look at what we can think about or do differently. Maybe hire a coach, have some thinking time, have some dreaming time, write out some things that you want. It's a holistic approach to change your life. And you can have the life you want. It's just a matter of planning it and getting help with those dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think getting, and also just even having, a community, like we've both got communities around what we do. And I think having that community and having people to ask questions from, and to, then it's about having it's building up a confidence as well, isn't it? It's building up the confidence around you and to be able to take that next step. And when it comes to kind of, disconnection, you just have to take it kind of step by step and think to yourself, so all right, so at the moment, I'm not getting, why aren't I getting any brides? Okay, what is it? Okay, you've got no brides coming through, you're not getting any inquiries, okay, you may have just started out. Okay, so there's a disconnection somewhere. Are they landing on your Facebook page for a start? Are you actually getting any brides? Are you getting any traction on social media? Yeah, I'm getting traction on social media. Okay, well, that's great. So, but they're not obviously then transferring over to perhaps your website for a quote then. Are you getting any quotes? No, I'm not getting any quotes requests. Okay, so what's the connection then? What's the disconnect? Why are these people not coming from social media? And it can be something that's so simple, like what I call a call to action. You're not telling them what to do. So on every single post that you post on social media, on Facebook, you say, click the blue button to book or to get a quote or to download my freebie or whatever it is. It's because you're not telling people what to do next. They're coming, they're thinking, this is really nice. She's got some nice work. Distraction, off they go. 3 seconds, and they're gone now these days. Our attention spans are so short. But if they're looking at these posts, and every time it's kind of saying, click here to book or click here to do this, and we've got to be careful because we don't want to be in your face all the time, and Facebook don't like you using what they call clickbait. So in other words, you're using things to encourage people to click on things. But generally speaking, they're pretty good with business pages, and they know that business pages want clients. You just got to be careful with the words that you use on Facebook and Instagram. But it's, but if you're doing an article, if you're sharing an article and just saying, what are your thoughts on this? Then the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get a reaction. Asking questions on Facebook is great. You'll get a reaction in the comments, and then you can start conversations with people. So if there's a disconnect that you're not not getting any inquiries, there's something that's going on between brides that kind of finding you, but then they're not moving forward with you. So there's that disconnection there. If you're then getting lots of inquiries, but you're not turning them into bookings, then there's got to be a disconnection between the website and pretty much you in a way. So are they surprised? Perhaps you've not got your prices on your website, so therefore they're getting a quote from you and they're shocked because, whoa, I didn't know they were going to be this expensive. Perhaps that's the issue. And that's not to say that your prices are too expensive. It's just to the fact of you haven't communicated that. So therefore, these people are all inquiring, thinking, wow, you're amazing. But then they're gone, oh, I can't afford you. So that's why I say put your prices on your website, because then you won't have those time wasters.
Right.
It could be then as well that they're connecting. They know what you charge, and they're sending you through a quote, but you're really busy with other things and you haven't managed to get back to them in time. So it's taken you 3 or 4 days before you've even acknowledged that you've received the quote from them. You perhaps haven't been quite on their toes. And I always talk about having, as soon as somebody submits a quote, you should automatically have an email that welcomes them straight away, that automatically goes, hey, thanks for contacting me. I've received your quote request. I'm on it. You'll get it within the next 24 to 48 hours. Bear with me, and then get on it straight away. So there's some kind of disconnection going there. Then if you are getting quotes and you're emailing over the quotes and then it's kind of crickets, you've got some kind of communication problem. And this was probably the hardest one to kind of adjust to or find out, what's actually going on, because turning brides into bookings, it is a little bit of a skill. Again, it's going to do with the fact that you're perhaps not quite quick enough. You're not on the ball enough to kind of get them locked in. I would also say that you probably need to have some kind of way for brides to talk to you on the phone or in person, because I genuinely think that really, if you know who it is that you're targeting, and so you're always attracting the right bride, and they've come through, they've checked you out on social media, they've requested a quote, they already want you. You had them at hello, really. So for you then to turn that bride into a booking, that should be a no-brainer. So if you're not turning that bride into a booking, I would go back to the drawing board and go, have I actually attracted the right person here, or am I missing the mark?
I think that's a good point because I always like to have this statement, you don't know what you don't know. And maybe you could have a friend go through the whole system
Yeah.
to see how long, or ask your friend to do it incognito and say, they could pretend. I mean, there's just all things that you could do. The call to action for brides that you mentioned is, I watched on some of the other Facebook groups, these girls and stylists share their conversations. This one's a no-show and this one's not showing up. And I read the language that they're using, and they're not using direct language. They're being evasive, or they're being too nice, or they're not. There's an art to that. And I've been reading a lot of books on sales. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on sales. I've been reading books on persuasion and how to read people. And, you know, it's just the way it is today. If we're going to go after our dreams and our goals, we've got to be our own business people. We've got to look outside of just doing great hair, because I say 80% is all that we're talking about, and 20% is doing hair, because it's not just skills. And oh, sure, it's so much more fun to go to an updo class and to go into New York and go to IBS and whatever, but that's not going to put clients in your chair and money in your wallet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. That is exactly it. 80% is your business, 20% is working on your business, and so 20% kind of in your business, definitely. And I think, again, it's I think this side of things gets overlooked. I think we just think if we can get bums on seats, like we're sweet. But the problem is that if you don't build up that reputation, and you don't put yourselves outside the box a little bit so that you're not like the norm, like you said, people have got a choice. There is so much choice out there. What are you doing to show your brides that you are number one? Not that you are the best, and you might not be the best hairstylist or the best makeup artist in the business, but you know your clients inside and out. You know exactly what they want from you before they've even asked for it. You're providing them with the best experience that they would have through, they wouldn't have this experience without you. And, it's showing that bride how you get them from A to B. So how you get them from where they are now to where they want to be, which is ultimately looking amazing on their wedding day. So it's not just a fact of, I do great hair and great makeup, like you're saying. It's I not only do great hair and great makeup, but I will see you through step by step. I will make sure that we get the trial sorted. I'll make sure that I talk to mum if you need me to talk to mum. I'll make sure that that the wedding party is, set. I'll make sure that everyone's here in my chair on the day at the right time. I'll give you a timeline, tell you when I'm going to be there, who's going to be in my chair when. So they get a full experience with you. And the other thing we have to remember is that brides do book us, 12, 24 months in advance. Don't forget them over that time. And that's why I said about having some kind of automation in your business, because I don't know about you, I see it in the forums all the time where it will be, a bride just cancelled me for a wedding and it's, 6 months away, and I've had it booked in since, 6 months before that. And I just think to myself, but have you even communicated with her over the last 6 months? Or did you just book her in with a deposit and then it was like, it's time for a trial, so now you suddenly contacted her? What about all that time? That's why they go elsewhere, because you kind of ignore them.
I think this is where I really like to talk about, is that this is an emotional experience. Decisions are made emotionally. The bride has a ton of stuff on her mind. And the more that you can do, and this is why I wrote my second book called The Morning of Your Wedding, because the more that you can do to help her. Perfect example, I was at a trial, and the bride's son kept coming in, mommy, we have a birthday party tomorrow, or this, later today, and mommy. And, and so I said to her, do you have anyone helping the kids dress on your wedding morning? And she's like, no, I didn't even think about that. I said, well, you're going to really need to have somebody there at the house to take care of the kids. And whether it's a second time wedding and there's teenagers or there's little ones, anything you can do to say, you know, make a packing zone, put a table out, put your veil where you can see it. I can't tell you how many brides forget their veil and send so-and-so back to get it. Then they're late for their hair appointment. And then, you know, it's just all this stuff. But the more that you can say to the bride, you know, how to wear her undergarments under her robe, make sure she pees before she sits down. Like, there's so many things that we can do that will endear us to the bride and give her that feeling of safety. And that's it. We have to get them to feel safe and taken care of, and know that there's anxiety, and know that there's stress in everyone's energy levels. And I'm really big on meditation. Everyone's energy levels are going to be jacked up. And if you're disorganized as an artist and they're jacked up, then this is where hairdressers get burnt. I'm so done with wedding parties. I'm so, you know, there's too much stress. It's too much. Stress can be managed. Systems can remove stress. And there's all these great things to think about, and to not just give up and quit, because there's good money. I mean, a week's pay in one day.
Absolutely.
I did a wedding. I did this wedding, and I was just hired with my team to do the wedding party. The bride flew in her hairdresser from New York City, who had all these Louis Vuitton luggage, and I'm like, there's another level. There's hairdressers I know that travel to Dubai. Like, you can take it wherever you want it to go. You want to be the best in your salon. You want to be the best in your town. You want to be the best, you know, for this resort. You can do it. It just takes some coaching and plan, and it's oh my gosh, I worked in little wash and set shampoo place. I worked where my mom got her hair done, my grandmother got her hair done, and so anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. It's just being willing to look into the systems.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
2 minutes. We're 2 minutes away from an hour already. Can you believe it?
I know, it's crazy. But I
Is
think
there anything? Go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, you're totally right, because be the expert that you are. Show them that you are the expert. Why are they booking you? Because you know everything that they could possibly want. You are the one, like you said. I think we, as a hairdresser, I guess even as a makeup artist, you kind of act as everything on wedding day. You're kind of their confidant. You know, you're their psychiatrist. You're their hairdresser. Yeah. You know, you and the trial is huge. I think the trials, I would not do a wedding now without a trial. And I always say, no wedding, no trial. Sorry, no trial, no wedding, because you can really, really get to know the dynamics as well. Because you got to think, sometimes we walk into a wedding party, there could be a bit of tension in there. There could be something going on that you don't know. You've walked into something and gone, okay, can cut the atmosphere with a knife. It is your job. If you're there, it is your job to turn that energy around. You have to turn that energy around. Your bride is your number one priority. Be her advocate. If she can't, you know, she finds it difficult to tell her bridesmaids to calm down, you tell them to calm down. Let them hate you. You don't care. But, you know, girls, okay, how about, you know, what, it's 12 o'clock, you know, go grab the bubbly, let's put some music on, and, you know, just try and change the atmosphere. If that's what you've got to do, if you're sat there with your bride and you can feel her getting anxious. It's the worst thing when a bride starts to tense up and, you know, starts to hunch her, and you're thinking, oh, I've got to get her to calm down. So yeah, be the expert, be the person, so that when she turns around and someone says to her, what was your hairstylist like on your wedding day? And they'll turn around and go, she was so good. She just completely, you know, changed the atmosphere. She calmed my bridesmaids down. Everyone was going a bit crazy, but she organized everything for me. Brides have got a lot to think about, and they may think that they're organized for wedding day, but a lot of the times they're not.
They do think that they are, or they think they won't get nervous. And I talk about every bride gets to that place where she can't, when you're stressed, and this is the way the brain works too, you can't control it, because it's chemicals that are starting down here, and you're trying to deep breathe and deal with this, and the room brings its own energy, and everything brings its own energy. And it's so true. I always say, don't tell the bride anything protect the bride. She doesn't need to know there's one centerpiece missing, you know, and I will find out someone who seems to be like on point, and it might not always be the maid of honor. She might be a hot mess too. But there's usually someone who's understanding the timeline, someone who's able to be that go-to, like go down to the brunch and get that maid of honor upstairs or whatever it needs to be. But we do have to control the day. And the more we can do that, the brides, you'll get those letters and cards and referrals. And it, oh man, it feels so good. And
yeah,
it becomes like, you can only do so many weddings a year or on a weekend, you know, and then you raise your prices, you know.
Absolutely. And again, or you open it up to a different type of bride, you know, you start looking at attracting another type of bride now, because, you know, you've kind of nailed that look. So now you're known for something a little bit, you evolve as well. We evolve in our business. We evolve as our styles evolve, as the industry evolves, as the latest trends evolve. And then our prices evolve too. So we, you know, the more experience we get, the more we can then start attracting, you know, more people to our business. And that's when you start thinking about bringing on teams, or you start contracting other people to work with you, or you have an assistant that's with you because, you know, you couldn't possibly do it by yourself anymore. That's a great position to be in.
Mm-hmm. It is. Well, Dawn, we could probably talk for another hour, but I know people's time is, you know, we don't want to waste things. We'll hone it in on this hour. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with?
Well, I think just to follow your passion. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there in your community as well. Networking is tough. We talked about networking a little bit last week, and perhaps that's for another conversation, actually, Gretchen. But try and put yourself out there a little bit. Don't be afraid as well of getting on camera. And I know that is probably the biggest thing, where I always say that if you're going to use social media to grow your business, you've got to get on video. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be face to face like we are today, but even just like how you were doing, just showing updos and stuff, something very simple. You don't have to even be, you know, the updo specialist or anything like that, but showing your brides how they could perhaps maintain their look, or how they could prep their look for wedding day. It's showing you as the expert, and it's making you stand out. So if I can give any advice, it would be to find your niche, but then also look at how you can present that then to the world, to your clients and to your surrounding area. And definitely look at Facebook and Instagram as tools to growing your business, not as, you know, social media as such that we know it, where we're chatting to our friends. Use it as a tool for your business. I think that's really important to do. And if anyone wants to find out more about me, they can just go to bridalbusinessschool.com or Bridal Business School on the Facebook page. I live stream weekly, Wednesdays and Thursdays, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So around this time, weekly. And I've got some training coming up, so some free training for everyone. So I'll leave you some details for that, Gretchen, as well.
And all right, so I think we'll sign off, and I thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure to have you here.
You're welcome, and I'm hoping that I can get you onto my podcast as well, so that'd be awesome to talk to you.
Be fun. All right, have a good night.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye, everyone. Take
Bye.
care.